I'm going to pick apart some of the most important traits not only of successful consultants, but those who actually enjoy their job, if you can believe that. Hi, I'm Will, and in this video, I want to do 3 things.
One annoying thing about consulting is that I now just say 3 everything.
1, I'm going to add depth and nuance to the conventional wisdom of what makes a good consultant that you may have read online or been sold at careers fairs. We're talking stock phrases like analytical thinker, detail-orientated, adaptive, that sort of thing. And at times, I'm even going to challenge these standard narratives. 2, I'm going to present insights from 10 consultants that I was lucky enough to interview from within MBB, the Big 4, and boutique consultancies. Their contributions go beyond what you might normally hear in intriguing and frankly unexpected ways. So make sure you stick around to the end to find out some real-world qualities that make all the difference in a consultant's ability to succeed or struggle. 3, well, those were the main things. Go deeper and beyond. 3 can be to have fun. Let's make 3 have fun. Excel and PowerPoint are the bread and butter of any consultant's toolkit. So pull up your slides and let's get consulting. While my discussion today is broadly applicable to the field of consulting, I'll mostly be focusing on management and strategy consulting, referencing firms like MBB and the Big 4. I'm going to assume that you sort of have a basic understanding of what consulting entails and a general lay of the land regarding some of the major players. If you're not up to speed, then watch my intro video, and also please like and subscribe, it makes a big difference. There's this common misconception that an economics or business degree is a prerequisite for a career in management consulting. However, the truth is it's much more about personal attributes and less about what you've studied.
On my current case team, there's 1 doctor. I did biological sciences. There's 1 person who just got back from MBA but did English before that. There's 1 person who did history and 1 person who did economics and management. So yeah, there's an incredibly broad range.
This is a really attractive aspect of consulting. It's open to anyone with a university degree or solid experience if they can demonstrate that they are passionate, hardworking, and that they have good analytical and problem-solving skills. Just a quick note on this, if you want to go into an industry-specific consultancy or area of consulting, you might need a specific degree. For example, if you want to go into an engineering consultancy, then potentially you'll need an engineering degree. Just wanted to flag that.
I'm not really passionate about anything, but I'm interested in a lot of things. So you want to have that drive to learn about subjects and really dig into them, discover the most niche part of this industry that you kind of know about by name, and learn about the future of it, the past of it, how people view it within the market itself, and then from one day to the next, just drop it and go to the next thing. That's something that I really enjoyed.
Consulting is defined by its dynamic rhythm. You navigate through your career on a project-by-project basis, each project presenting a unique industry or problem area to explore. These projects usually last from a few weeks to several months, and occasionally, depending on the type of consulting you're doing, they can last longer. When a new project begins, you have to analyze and understand the root causes of problems that are likely new to you, often in completely unfamiliar business territories. For example, I spoke to someone who had just come off a project on mini cranes, and they could name on cue all of the different brands and types of mini crane. Trust me, that's something they never expected to be doing. The point is, which type of project you're put on is often out of your control and sometimes in fields you might never have thought of engaging with. But if you are a genuine lifelong learner with an innate curiosity to engage with a multitude of different subjects, then consulting has a lot to offer. The consultants I spoke to who really enjoyed their work were able to gain value from engaging with a task for a short period of time, very intensely, then dropping it and moving on. They didn't need that sort of overarching big picture goal. I don't want to overstate this point. It should be noted that certain consultancies, particularly in large scale implementation, can have projects that span across several years. So there really is a spectrum here. Many individuals view consulting as a stepping stone to the rest of their career rather than the final destination. They enter the field with the understanding that they'll probably only be in the job for 2 to 4 years. All the while, they're on the lookout for an opportunity to present itself and become their true passion, whether that's going into a specific industry or an NGO or starting up their own company.
It's a really good place to go and try a bunch of different things, learn some really good business habits, find out what you're really interested in, and then go off into the world 2 years later and become a specialist in something.
It's sort of like the corporate version of going backpacking. Through the experiences and hardships that you faced along the way, you learn about yourself, where your true passions lie. Who is the real corporate you? Consulting exposes you very quickly to a myriad of different industries, all the different aspects of working on a project. The initial analysis and trying to understand what the problem is, to interviewing specialists and running workshops, to analyzing all of the data that you've collected and repackaging it and turning it into a polished product that you then present to the client. It allows you to understand about yourself quite a lot, like which part of the project do I enjoy? Is it engaging with people? Do I like sitting down and crunching the data? I'm a salesperson and I'm good at sort of presenting, for example. You take all these learnings and that can inform the rest of your career. The counter thought to this is that if you have a clear understanding of what you love doing, for instance, you have a strong interest in the entertainment industry, you might be better served going and working at a studio or a production company or whatever it might be. Or if you're really drawn to the idea of going into consulting, but you have a specialist background or a specific area of interest, then seeking out a consultancy that specializes in your particular passion does work for people. Consultancies need analytical thinkers. This is something that is all over the consulting websites. And if you're anything like me, you sort of have a sense of what it means in kind of a loose, abstract way, but you don't know what it means in concrete, real world terms. Like, does this apply to me? Am I an analytical thinker? I'm going to try bring this concept into focus for you. Being a good analytical thinker is essentially just being good at problem solving. In consulting, you come up against new business challenges that might at first seem huge and indistinct and complex, and it would be so easy to become overwhelmed by the scale, but also by the countless approaches that you could take. A good analytical thinker in the context of consulting is able to break down a big, seemingly intractable problem with a vast, sprawling data set into smaller, manageable chunks. They ask the right questions to figure out what is really going on. Then they provide answers based on evidence and actionable solutions to those problems. Let's take an example of good analytical thinking. You're a consultant and you're approached by Next Level to try and maximize sales for the release of their new flagship game, Zombie Madness. Okay, so you sit down and you look at the sales from the sequel to Zombie Madness, Zombie Mad. From the last 3 years, you notice that there is a fluctuation in sales that is regularly repeating across the year. It could be down to chance, especially as it seems to vary slightly from country to country, but the analytical mind kicks in and you think of comparing the peaks in those sales with the calendars of their target audience, teenagers between 12 and 18. By scrutinizing the sales patterns, you realize that during the school holidays, these teenagers have more time to kill zombies. So, just before the summer break, there is a surge in sales. You recommend that Next Level align their release schedule with the start of the school holidays and suggest implementing targeted promotions to take advantage of the uptick in player availability. Your strategic insights allow Next Level games to optimally time the release for greatest effect. And Shazam! They sell more games. Consulting is absolutely full of jargon for processes associated with analytical thinking. If you're not a fan of structured protocols and defined processes, and you instead prefer to work in a bit more of a kind of agile and less structured work environment, then you might find aspects of consulting a bit too methodical and tick boxy. You might be better suited in, say, a startup or in the world of consulting at a small boutique firm. How do you know if you're an analytical thinker? Well, here are some questions you could ask yourself. How do I approach new problems? Do I break them up into smaller parts to better understand them? Do I seek out data and evidence in decision making? Am I comfortable working with numbers and statistics and quantitative information? Am I able to take information from lots of different sources and synthesize it together to form a comprehensive understanding? Can I structure information clearly and logically? Do I have the patience and persistence to delve deep into issues and not just settle for surface level understanding? If you find yourself sort of nodding along to these questions, then you might well possess the analytical prowess that consultancies are looking for. Being detail-orientated is another classic trait of what people will tell you makes a good consultant. But in my opinion, the phrase detail-orientated can be a little misleading. Maybe it's just me, but in my head, it conjures up the image of a person who's a bit like a big brooding spider who spends hours hunched over the minutiae of a document, looking at all the minuscule little details and corrections until everything is just perfect. But what this doesn't take into account is that consulting firms are often fast-paced and results-driven environments. So while consultants do need to be precise, they don't have the luxury of being perfectionists. They simply don't have the time.
Perfectionists. I can be one in some areas, but I just completely had to leave that at the door when working in consulting because there's no time for it. But that becomes quite freeing.
Consulting is a client-facing business, so you have to be brilliant at producing error-free deliverables. No typos, no grammatical errors, calculation mistakes, no sloppy work. Just lovely, slick, succinct slides. Sounds good, doesn't it? This is because polished and accurate work is an important part of building client trust and letting them know that they're in a safe pair of hands. But perfection is often the enemy of progress. A hallmark of a good MBB consultant is being able to prioritize the right things at the right time. The ability to prioritize which details are critical and which can be handled with a broader brushstroke is a key ability in consulting, and it harks back to the analytical mindset we discussed earlier. So if you don't have natural precision and you're like me, you're a bit error prone, the consulting world seems pretty scary to me. But it's really how you approach the work. You could see it as a great opportunity to improve your skills. And with the right mindset and support, you definitely can develop your precision and attention to detail where it counts. One thing I noticed about every one of the 10 consultants I interviewed is that they were exceptional communicators. They articulated their thoughts in a clear and engaging way, and over email, they were to the point, clear and concise. As I've mentioned, consulting is a client-facing profession, so the ability to interact with people at all levels, from junior all the way up to C-suite executives, is essential. This involves having really good interpersonal skills, being empathetic, and having the ability to build and maintain relationships, knowing when to speak and when to listen. Basically, if you're charming, you're engaged, and genuinely interested in people, that is a huge asset. There is another aspect of communication that is critical to your ability to thrive in your early career.
So communication is essential, because the only time anything goes wrong, really wrong, is if the more senior people didn't know about it until the last minute when it's too late to do anything about it because there was no communication. If you communicate early and just open, there was a solution.
Consulting firms have the structures in place to support you, but they can only support you if you are open to asking for help, whether it's a personal or professional issue. If you're feeling in the dark or overwhelmed, recognizing when to ask for help and being receptive to it if it's offered is invaluable in your career, particularly for longevity. You will progress further, and personally, you'll be able to handle stress better, and you will be less likely to burn out. But that goes for everything in life, really. Good consultants tend to be people. They're easy to get along with, and they draw energy and satisfaction from working closely with others. There is the client relationship aspect of this, but also internally amongst colleagues.
It works well for people who are very good teammates, especially if they can offer support to other team members. So they can tell that one team member is, doesn't have capacity for this new task. They'll be like, don't worry, I'll share this with you. And make sure, that you're saying this to whoever's managing the project. I think there's a bit of a myth of you've got to be a shark and, be quite rude and quite mean. I think the people who aren't well suited for consulting are the ones who take something personally, who question themselves a lot if a client is not happy.
This was echoed from interview to interview. Consultants need to be open to feedback.
You receive a lot of feedback from all angles. And the people that get defensive or deflect that, it just doesn't work, because these people are telling you because they want you to do well and stuff, and they've seen it loads of times before.
Those who can take feedback without getting defensive are much more likely to succeed. But they're also more likely to enjoy the job. So maybe ask yourself, am I comfortable being regularly told that my work has room for improvement?
It suits people who are honestly ambitious. Everyone that I met, if you're not naturally confident, even if what you're saying is absolute bullcrap, you will not advance.
It's undoubtedly true that consultancies are fast-paced and competitive environments. Ambitious consultants are more likely to take on more challenging projects, really invest in continuous learning, and go the extra mile to exceed client expectations. If you can effectively sell yourself and your ideas, then this is a very attractive trait. And cynically speaking, there's a fair amount of that goes on. So if you can sell yourself, even if you don't have that much to offer, then that can be very useful.
I'm personally motivated by urgency. So yeah, it's very fast paced, so it suits people with high energy.
Working in an environment with high caliber colleagues can be a powerful motivator.
I need to be pushed. I'll happily just go at the speed that's required. not just speed, but thought, quality, everything. And so having an incredibly high base is really good for me because it just keeps me on my toes.
But there is a need for balance here. Ambition often comes with high expectations for yourself. And if you desire urgency and you're pushy to take on more work, consulting firms can match that workload almost indefinitely. So if you're not careful, the hours can become crazy and you can lose sight of what is an acceptable amount of work. And that's when you get into burnout territory.
And so I think to do well in consulting for a longer period of time, you need to be like slightly more relaxed and have a bit more perspective of there's a long journey ahead. And if I have 2 months here where I don't have much to do in a 25-year career, it's neither here nor there, and it's going to make a massive difference to me in the next 2 months. And also kind of not sweat the small stuff. Like stuff goes wrong. You need to be able to not take yourself too seriously.
If you're coming out of uni and you're anything like I was, you're unlikely to know what workloads you're capable of managing. It's a part of entering the working world, the process of understanding where your boundaries are, what is and isn't acceptable in your working life. But consultancies can be very stressful environments and it's easy for things to get out of control.
But a lot of people, particularly sort of high achieving, these intense people, refuse to believe that anything is wrong until it all implodes. Yeah, it's not rare at all. There's always people on mental health leave and stuff. Yeah. You need balance as a person to be able to step back and put things into context, I think, to do well over the long period.
Consultancies, supercharged by corporate competition, can be unforgiving places. And without setting self-imposed boundaries, you might be permitted to go beyond the point of exhaustion. You have to set your own limits and stick to them to safeguard against burnout. The ability to balance drive and well-being is essential, potentially the most important aspect of creating a fruitful and most importantly, enjoyable career in consulting. I know that's easier said than done, but it's true. That's all, folks. If you have any questions or you'd like to add anything to the conversation, anything maybe that I mischaracterized or an experience you'd like to share, then please put it nicely in the comments. Bye!